Let us get started so that we can really make the most of this hour together. So we really appreciate you guys being here, especially between the holidays. We know that this season can be a little busy with family and closing out the end of the year, but we think that this is a really important topic for top realtors to really plug into at this time to really slow down and assess what you want next year to look like. So we're really glad that you're all here. So welcome back. Another Monday mastermind call with Every Move Collective. We are going to be guided into this through Casey Council, top national coach. I'll introduce her a little bit later on, but just a reminder of who we are. Myself, my mom Eva, my brother Dylan here on the call, run a top producing team out of Westchester County, New York, and Connecticut and Los Angeles. Also run the amazing organization of Every Move Collective at EXP, which brings you these bi-monthly masterminds, always on the second and fourth Monday of every month. So we actually do have one more call before the end of the year on December 22nd. This is going to be about hiring a salaried production partner. So it's kind of like very niche and very unique. If it's interesting to you, if you're looking to grow, definitely come check this out. So we always encourage you to be as conversational as possible on these calls. If you have a question or a comment, feel free to raise your hand or chime in the chat. If you're able to turn your cameras on, we really appreciate it. And we just want to hear from everyone today, especially since there's some new faces. Let us know what your market is in the chat. And also in that same comment, on a scale of 1 to 10, let us know how clear you feel about your 2026 business plan right now, because that's obviously going to be the topic that we jump into.
Well,
So,
I'm driving, so I can't text or put it in the chat, but I'm from northern New Jersey, primarily Bergen County, and I also do Boca Raton, like over 55s. So, and that's in Florida. And
awesome.
I'm not that clear on my objectives for next year at all.
Okay, well, you're here, so that's good.
Yes, love you.
So,
Thanks.
yeah, this is a good time to zoom out, assess the direction of your business. If you wait till January to do this, you're going to be a little behind the ball. So this is exactly where you need to be to make sure that you hit your goals and, kind of are strategic about working towards the goals that you want to reach. So we're very fortunate to be guided by Casey today. She has 29 years of coaching experience. She's helped thousands of agents and direct sales teams on this exact topic, strengthening their mindset, their income generating activities, getting really clear on what you want your business to look like and how to align your actions with your goals. So I will hand over the mic to Casey and we can dive in. And thank you again for all being here.
Well, thank you for the introduction, Colby, and welcome
Of
everyone.
course.
It's great to see some familiar faces. I see Patty and Anna and Anthony. Good to see you guys. And thanks for being here. So I was thinking about, it's so funny because what I thought we were going to be talking about, I realized is not what we were going to be talking about. I was like, how am I going to talk about this subject? And I think it's perfect. Everything always happens perfectly. And that is, so I roll with it and go. And there's been a lot of business planning clinics that have happened starting in October. I've seen, a lot of them. We've done them. Everyone's in business planning clinics and, running numbers and looking at projections and all of that. And so, my thought is, while that is an important piece of the business, I think there's a bigger piece that plays into that. And so that is the conversation that we're going to have today. Because have you ever noticed that we can be clear, and I say we, including myself, on what there is to do and not go execute and become professional goal setters and not goal achievers and just continue to set new goals and set new goals and set new goals and then not execute in a way that those goals are going to get achieved and then feel like a failure because we didn't achieve the goal and then not want to set a new goal, but we know it's important to set a goal because it's like having a heat-seeking missile and you need to have at least a target out there so you know what you're working towards and then, be in that cycle. And so business planning and goal setting can take on a very bleh experience. Has anyone ever had that experience outside of me multiple times? Okay, yeah. So we're going to have a different conversation today. And it's going to be a conversation from the inside out because my personal perspective is you can have the greatest business plan in the world, you can have the greatest goals in the world, you can have the greatest business systems in the world, and none of that matters if you don't have the human suit aligned with somebody that's going to go execute on those things. And so every day, I believe we get up and we create a pile of evidence based on the activities that we do. And if we're doing what we said we're going to do when we said we're going to do it, or if we're not. And so to, create a business plan and set a bunch of goals, and this is my plan and what I'm going to do, and then not do it on a daily basis, what it takes to execute on that, actually is the fastest way to erode self-esteem, because what it communicates is I'm full of, like, what I say is not real. I don't mean it. It's not happening. And so I don't believe it. So why would someone else? And even if we're not saying those words physically, energetically, that's what starts to happen in the physiology in the body. And now you take that human out into the world, into life, into working with clients. And it's like, I wonder why, I have to go do, 12 listing appointments or 20 listing appointments to pull one listing, and other people are, doing like for every listing appointment they go on, they get 1 out of 2, right? And we know we have the same scripts and dialogues. We're saying the same thing, but the come from's totally different based on the insides. And so I like to start on the inside, because I believe that is where to the extent of what our inside world looks like, our outside world is going to reflect that. And it's not possible for it to be any different. And so if we want the outside world to look different, and I'm always thinking about, when it comes to a new year and putting a button on this year and looking at the new year, I'm always asking myself, okay, what do I want more? What do I want better? What do I want differently in the new year? But the question that's going to precede that is, who is there for me to become that actually creates something more, better, or different in the coming year than I created in the year that we're still in. And so in my how I do this, I've been doing this for, oh my goodness, 25 years at least. Every year is the same process. And so that process starts out with how you define success. So I would love to get just a couple of shares, because success means different things to different people. And my definition of success for me does not matter to anyone really but me. And your definition of success is what matters to you. So I would love to just get a couple of shares, and feel free to pull yourself off mute. Who's ever off mute first is fine. And I'm fine to be interrupted as well. Put anything in the chat at any time you like, because I'm kind of a flow with, and I'll go anywhere in the conversation. But how do you define success for yourself? And I'm not talking like business success or life success. I'm just talking about success, period. How do you define success for yourself?
I can go. My name's Tanari.
Tanari, love that you are jumping right in the deep end of the pool and the first one to go.
Yeah, so success for me is living life in my own terms.
Okay.
So, slow mornings, project-based, family time, quality time. That's successful to me.
Okay. So as long as you have control of your life, your time, and your schedule, that's success. Love that. Who else?
I would kind of agree with what she said as well. Just having the freedom financially and the time to be able, take the trips with ones you love.
Okay.
Do what you need to do. That's, spend time with those you really want to.
Okay, cool. So what happens when you don't have the time or you don't have the money to take those trips and spend that time? Then what happens to success for you?
For me, well, my life has changed significantly in the past year now. So I've always kind of been doing what I want, but more so now that I'm divorced, I'm able to do exactly what I want on my own terms,
Okay.
and financially being able to do this and build the business that I want and the future that I want, and work with a team that I really love.
That's fantastic. Thank you for sharing. Okay, who else? How do you define success for yourself? If you don't know what that definition is, you could look at the inverse of how do I define unsuccessful, and then go,
Okay, I'll pop in.
what's the opposite of that? And there you have what success is. Okay, go.
Okay, so the freedom to pick up and go whenever I want to and still be able to manage my business from wherever I am. Like I was in Sicily and I ran 10 open houses. I had people run them for me, and I followed up, and I got my feedback on my, different times of the day, but I was able to live and then I came home, was home for 3 days, flew down for Florida for a week, and still managing everything from wherever I am. I love that I have 2 homes, so I can go back and forth.
Okay,
As you
great.
get older, your levels, your what you think is successful is changes dramatically from when you were younger.
Yes, I would definitely say that can be the case. So, for those of you that didn't jump off of mute and don't have a definition of success, I'm going to share what mine is. If you like it, feel free to use it. So, how I define success is forward progress towards worthy goals. Forward progress towards worthy goals. So, it's not a pass or a fail. It's like, for me, if I define success as, time freedom and I don't have time freedom, then I'm not successful. And how do I ever get out of that feeling, right? So I like to, there's in the lens that we choose to look at things and the perspectives that we choose to take on, there's ways that we can set ourselves up to win. And then there's ways that we can set ourselves up to sabotage ourselves. So if your definition of success doesn't give you a place to win every single day, maybe you check in on how you define what success means for you. So again, success for me is forward progress towards worthy goals. So
Sorry, guys. The one in Rome.
it's all right. This is
The
life. We
connection
roll.
failed because of my host connection failed. Sorry about that.
It's all good. It's life. We roll with it.
Okay.
I'm going to give a second for everyone to jump back on. But for those of you that may be just
Okay.
joining, initially just joining, and then for those of you that are rejoining, to anchor that point, how you define success. Pick a definition where you can win at the end of every day and know that you're winning. And for some people, this is a really challenging thing because it's like, okay, how did I win today? And it's like, well, I didn't have any wins. Well, in my experience, the people that aren't able to identify wins in the day don't have a framework or a clear definition for success that's going to set them up to be able to come back and see how they're actually winning each day. Okay, so any questions on the importance of defining success for you, whatever that looks like, or anyone else that wants to share any thoughts around that before we move on?
I'll go really quick.
Okay.
I like what you said about forward progress towards worthy goals. Sometimes my definition of success is something like far down the road, but I don't feel successful, or I should feel successful when I take when I chop it up into small steps and daily activities. It does feel good when I know that I moved the ball down the field just by doing what I said I was going to do for that day. I always make a to-do list every morning. So that's really good to realize that forward progress. So I just wanted to piggyback on that.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, just so taking like a personal example, I train 3 times a week at the gym, and I am, my trainer trains in powerlifting, so I've been lifting heavier and heavier. And I'm squatting with close to 160 pounds on a bar on my back, right? And for the last week, I think it was the last week and a half, and I train 3 times a week, upper body one day, lower body the next, and it's 2 separate workouts, so they're always alternating. And I've been training for 18 months and have had no injuries and have this like little pull right where my hamstring attaches to my sit bone. And so when I went in today, I'm at a new weight with 5 reps, which is on the upper end threshold after 5 warm-up sets of lighter weights going into like 4 working sets at the 160 plus. And I'm like, yeah, I'm having this thing. It's like, on a scale of, 1 to 10, it's probably at a 4. And he's like, we're not doing this. We're going to like deload, change something and so that because that's not an injury that you want to have. So imagine if my definition of success in the gym was that I lift heavier and heavier. I just failed today. Versus my definition of success is that I get stronger and stronger without injury and that I train consistently. Oh, by the way, it's been 18 months. I haven't missed a workout or canceled a workout in 18 months. And it's a 2 for sure on the weeks if I'm traveling and 3 on the weeks that I'm in town. And so that definition of success, I've been more consistent than I've ever been in my entire life. I'm enjoying it. I'm getting stronger. I'm healthy and more healthy and fit than I've ever been because I have forward progress towards worthy goals as how I define success. So you are setting yourself up to win or to lose based on the lens or the filter that you're going to run things through around how you're going to define success for you personally and professionally. My invitation to you and the foundation of this conversation is be aware of what that narrative is and be intentional to pick one that's going to set you up to win, right? So that every day you can win, because even if we fail and lose, there's still places to win, right? And we learn more from our failures many times than we do from our wins. And so the bottom line is, how do we keep moving and not get stuck? Okay, enough on that. I beat that into the ground. We're going to take inventory now. So here's the areas that there are to take inventory. I'm going to invite you to, if you don't have something that you're writing on or writing with, grab a piece of paper, and I want you to make a big box that looks like this on the piece of paper. And then we're going to have a conversation about that box. And so what this box is an inventory. There's 4 main areas in life. Have you guys ever met people that are wildly successful in business, but look like they're one day away from like a stroke or a heart attack? Because they are so physically not taking care of themselves, right? And then have you ever met people that are like so fit and so healthy and so strong? However, they're always like, oh my gosh, there's more month than money. Every month, there's more month than money, right? You know, people like that. And then there's people that are like so philanthropic and giving and helping everyone else. But they haven't created any personal success, and everyone around them is winning while they lose. You know, people like that. And then can you think of somebody or think of people that like, wow, when it comes to their relationships, they have really great relationships. When it comes to their physical health, wow, they take really great care of themselves and are always looking to improve in that area. When it comes to the mindset that they have, they come from an abundance mindset. And we know that because the inside mindset of abundance has manifested it externally in their reality based on what they've created. So you don't hear them talk about more month than money. They've got liberty around time and finances. And so that's not really a part of the conversation. And, you know, they're doing great things to help people. Those people are few and far between, I would say. In life, we run across more of the extremes where at least in my life, I've noticed people are like really strong in one area, maybe 2, and then the others are like they're not paying any attention to for whatever reason. And so it's a unique individual that's willing to look at all sides. So we're going to talk about what the sides are. I asked you to draw a box because I want you to have a visual analogy. The language of the mind is pictures, right? And how we know that, if I say banana, what comes to your mind? This is the audience participation part.
Yellow banana.
Picture, yeah. Like an
Okay.
image of a banana, yeah.
A yellow banana, an image of a banana. Nobody saw the letters BANANA because our mind doesn't think in words. Our mind thinks in pictures. And so when you understand what the language of the mind is, you stop communicating to it in words and you communicate, if you want to be the most effective, you communicate in the mind what the language of the mind actually is, which is images or pictures. With those images or pictures, you now have an emotional attachment to them. So the reason why I had you draw this box on a piece of paper is because in the process of going through this inventory exercise, my intention is that you develop an experience that sits in your mind that you have some kind of emotional connection to, such that it becomes a catalyst for things to be more, better, or different moving forward. Okay. So there's a reason why. When we understand the reason why behind things, we're much more likely to integrate and to execute. I'm off track, but you know, from a training perspective, think about this when you're talking to people, talking to clients. If people understand why before they understand what and how, You're going to get a lot bigger adoption rate than if you're just constantly telling people what to do and how to do it, right? You got to get them bought in on why. So now that I've got you bought in on the why that everybody has a box, those of you that didn't have a box on a piece of paper have hopefully scurried to get a piece of paper and drawn a box on it because of the importance of what we're going to do next. Oh, very good, Anthony. I love it. I love it. Okay, so across the top of the box, the top line of the box, I want you to write the word emotional. And then also next to that word emotional, write relationships. So every human being has this aspect in their nature. We'll call it the emotional nature or makeup of a human being. And this relates to the relationship that we have with ourselves and the relationship that we have with others. So the relationships that we have with ourselves, like my relationship with myself, will directly impact to the level that I am able to create relationships with other people, right? So at the top, like the emotional component, some people will call this emotional intelligence, right? And that is the pause between what we feel and how we react or respond. And that intelligent piece is what that pause is. And if we're living our life in reaction, or if we pause and respond, that says a lot, right? In that emotional space. And usually when our back's up against the wall and there's a lot of stress involved, right? So I want you to rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10. 10 being like, I am knocking it out of the park. I'm the poster child. Like if you put this definition in the dictionary and you opened it up, you'd see a picture of me there right now in real time because I'm at a 10 on this aspect of my life. So take inventory in your life. Are you disconnected from yourself emotionally? Are you over emotional? Are you reactive? Are you combative? Are you suppressed? Are you resistant? Are you embracing? Or you go with the flow. Give yourself a score. And it's not a good or bad score. It's just on a scale of 1 to 10, knocking it out of the park. Number 1, large room for improvement. Anywhere between 1 and 10, just give yourself a score there. And I'm not going to ask you to share specifically what your scores are in each area. We're doing this for a reason. Okay. Down the left-hand side of the box, this
I have
one.
a quick question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So what do you do when you feel like maybe in certain situations you feel like you respond differently to different people? Like I feel like with certain people in my life, I maybe am more combative than other people. I more go with the flow. I kind of have a imbalance there where it's both.
Yeah, so where does it average out? And give yourself a score based on where it averages out.
Okay.
Yep. Great question. Thank you for asking. Okay, so down the left-hand side of the box, physical. I want you to write the word physical. This is everything from your energy to your strength to how easily you get overwhelmed to your mind to everything, everything related with your physical life, right? The nutrition that you put in or that you don't put in, your habits and how they support your performance or are blocking your performance. So on that physical side, on a scale of 1 to 10, give yourself a number or a rating there. And then down on the bottom, I want you to write the word mental and the word wealth. So this is when it comes to your mind from a mindset space, and like wealth as being a consciousness. So consciousness of abundance or scarcity on this side. So what that would look like on the wealth mental side is, oh my gosh, there's never enough time. There's never enough money. Oh, I'll always find a way. I'll always find the money, right? So how you approach things there. It also includes, bottom line is money is just a byproduct of level of service. So when you're doing a financial check-in and you're looking at level of service and income generated from that, where you are right now today versus where you want to be or what you're working towards, all of that's included, this business mental wealth side. So give yourself a score from 1 to 10 there. How are you doing? And then on the right-hand side of the box, going down the right-hand side of the box, I want you to write the word contribution. So this could be where you can contribute time, where you contribute money. The other word that you can put on this side of the box is spiritual, whatever that means to you. It could be something connected to faith, or something, a belief in something bigger than you. Could be religious, beliefs for some people. Whatever that means to you. So the contribution spiritual side of the box, which is your connection and where you give back. So on a scale of 1 to 10, give yourself a number there. Okay, so without sharing in any order what number coordinates with what thing, I want you to put your numbers, just like if it's 5, 8, 6, 2. We're not going in any particular order. Just what are the overall numbers? Put those in the chat, please, for what your numbers were that you rated yourself on each side of the box. And you might be thinking, gosh, what does this have to do with business planning for 2026? Don't worry, I'm going to land the plane, and we're going to talk about that. And you're going to be like, that's why we did that first. Okay, so we've got a couple. We've got 6675, 9876, 6739. Okay, fantastic. 7665, 7456.
Oh, we have to separate them? Okay. I added them.
It doesn't, I know what I'm looking at. 5778. Yeah, just what each number was on each side of the box. Okay. Now, you ready for the language of the mind being pictures? This is going to be so exciting, you guys. You don't know what's coming. If you did, you'd be way more excited than you are right now based on looks on the faces of people that are on camera. Okay. So what I want you to imagine now, and I'm going to draw it, is that you've got a circle on each one of the corners, and you could pick it, if it's going to the right. So by way of example, if I put my relationship emotional score on this box, and then contribution spiritual score on this box, and then over here mental wealth score on this box, like put each number in a box in the corner that you associate it with, and then look at me when you're done doing that. Now, what I want you to imagine, now that you've got those numbers relative in each corner in the circles, I want you to imagine that this box is not a box, it's actually a vehicle. It could be any vehicle you want. If it's a sports car and you love sports cars, that's great. But each circle represents a tire and a wheel on the car that you're driving. And when you think about the size of the tire and the pressure in the tire, and then you look at the corresponding numbers that you have in each one of those circles, what is the current ride in the vehicle called you in your life? Is it bumpy? Is it like, I'm not able to go very fast because it's so disjointed? Are the numbers more kind of like even, where it's like, well, they're not exactly the same, but they're close enough that we could go out on the freeway and I wouldn't like jiggle to death. So I'm able to have some acceleration and some momentum, right? Again, there's no right or wrong on the numbers on the inventory that you took, but it's going to be reflective of the experience that you're having in your life. So if you choose not to look at all 4 areas of your life when you're talking about your 2026 business and life plans, chances are things are going to be pretty bumpy for you. Your experience is not going to be that comfortable. You might be like, get me out of this vehicle because I cannot stand the toughness of what it feels like to sit in this vehicle called me driving in my life. And so the invitation right here is, before we ever talk about setting goals or making a business or a business plan, we've got to take this inventory and check in and go, okay, what's the true point A of where I'm at in each one of these areas? And then once we have the point A, which we do, the second piece of that is now choosing to go, okay, well, moving forward in 2026, I'm going to be intentional about not just looking at the inventory that I just took. However, how do I create more balance where I might be out of balance, or more intentionality where I maybe haven't been that intentional because there's been sides that have been neglected. Now, Rick, my late husband, and I used to go round and round about this because every year we do goal setting sessions, and he would have like, oh, I don't know, 60 or 70 different goals that he had for the coming year. And I would be like, great. You just set yourself up to get none of them because there's too many things. Like you have no focus and you're going to be all over the freaking map. And he's like, but these are my goals, not your goals. Butt out, basically, is what he was saying in the most loving way. And I'm not going to take any of these goals off of my goal list because these are things that I really want to happen. And I was like, okay, well, my brain thinks totally differently. And when I'm setting goals, I'm in a like, no shit, no kidding, what are we going to make happen this year conversation so that we have an intentionality behind it, we have focus behind it, we are like moving forward and tracking activities and course correcting along the way. So we have and now the reason why I share that with you is because maybe you love the way I do it. Maybe you love the way he did it. Like, doesn't matter. Do whatever is going to work for you. But the point that I'm making with that is that it's important to look at each area and then know. So here's what my experience is. Anybody that's going to take a quantum leap in one area. So let's say that your area this year is business that you want to take a quantum leap in. And I'm just going to talk a little bit about that because we're talking to a bunch of realtors. I was invited to like be the closing speaker at something called a business enrichment day that a former coaching client that Rick coached him for 7 years, and he was, used to be an independent agent and decided to start his own Realty One franchise and grew it to over 100 agents. And they do this business enrichment every day. And so for the 7 years that he worked with Rick, when Rick passed, it was a really big loss to their community. And so because Rick would often talk about how differently we viewed things, and it was usually more comical when he described it than when I describe it. They were like, will you come in and do the, end of the day business enrichment? I said, sure. So we were prepping for this. And I said, well, kind of tell me where your people are at. Because I've got 15 minutes to have, some kind of have them think differently, disrupt the apple cart kind of conversation. He said, well, we just all came back from our convention, our annual convention. And Brian Buffini, how many of you know who Brian Buffini is? Yeah. So for those of you that have been around, Brian Buffini is like 35 years as a coach in the real estate industry with, obviously a team of coaches and the whole Buffini method. Which has a lot to do with handwritten notes, right, left, and center, every turn that you can take, and always asking for referrals, for those of you that don't know Brian Buffini. So what he was saying is that Brian Buffini every year has these projections that he makes, and 34 out of the last 35 years, he's been correct. I'm like, well, that is a really good record. So here's what Brian Buffini's projections were for 2026. He said that 20% of the real estate population that exists right now will go away in 2026. That means another 20% of agents that are left after the last 2 years in the business that are still here will exit. And he said that in general, the business was going to improve by at least 10% in 2026. So there was a lot to be hopeful about. And everyone had heard that, and they were so encouraged and so inspired that their 2026 year is going to be better than their 2025 year. And I didn't have to be. I kind of like to be the rain on the parade and be like, that is not necessarily true for you. Just because Brian Buffini said it and it's happening in general doesn't mean that's going to happen for you in your business. That's not how it works. How it works at any given moment in time is people will grow by quantum leaps and bounds when they take personal ownership and responsibility, are willing to do the internal work, and then skill up where there's skills gap and go out and execute like they've never executed before. And to prove that point, we do a Free Friday coaching call this last Friday. I interviewed Shay Spitz. She's an amazing agent in EXP. She's been in the business 7 years, and she was talking about the importance of never listening to what's going on in the media as it relates to real estate. So get this. She's a single agent, individual agent. She has no sales team. She has 3 children under the age of 10 that she coaches their sports. She volunteers and sits on boards and does all of the volunteer mom stuff at school. And with 1 transaction coordinator And one virtual assistant in 2024 had her best year ever in real estate. And 2025, she's beating 2024. She's already closed 82 transactions this year, year to date. 75% of those sphere of influence past clients, not leads that she's buying. And so, why am I telling you that? I'm telling you the Buffini story and I'm telling you the Shay Spitz story for two reasons. Shay is very clear foundationally on the stuff that we just took inventory on, laser focused on it and clear. And because she's clear and she's aligned in that foundation, she's been able to go out and execute at a really high level and become more and more efficient and grow an amazing business, regardless of what everybody else is saying, regardless of the fact that, you know, the last 2 years transaction count wise have been the lowest in 30 years. Like none of that's mattered in her personal business. So in the same token that none of what has happened in the market around the world, in the US rather, has impacted her business because she's managing herself from the inside out and has gone and created that. In the same token, Brian Buffini's saying that business is going up by 10% in 2026, and so everybody can be hopeful and so excited about it being a better year is not a true statement for you. It might feel good to think that it's going to be that way because we all want to be motivated and inspired and feel good and get that little lift of like, oh, that feels amazing. And he must know because 34 of the last 35 years, he's been right. And so my business is going to go up in 2026. And I'm here to tell you, no, it's not. Not necessarily, right? And it can, right? So when we look at this foundation and getting this foundation in place, this is where everything else will come from. My experience is you can have one area that you focus on at a really high level if you want to make a quantum leap, and you'll be wildly out of balance in that one area as it relates to the other three. That doesn't mean the other three don't get attention. So let me tell you what I mean by that. So in years where Rick and I had business goals, and I think, 2019 is a great example. We were on 73 flights in 2019, all business related. And like business was a huge focus in 2019 because we were rebuilding and we knew that's what our focus was going to be. And that's where we were dialed in. Well, by the end of 2019, I'm like completely fried and saying, I want to redefine success based on how much we stay home, not how much we're on the road. And then thank goodness there was this little thing called a pandemic that happened. I'm not saying that I created that, but it did happen to work out really well for taking us out of traveling all over the planet, right? And then like redefining success. So in that year, 2020, one of our big goals, because we were out and had been for the previous 5 years, essentially, like so much energy and investment going into others, agents, right? And traveling and doing events and speaking and training and coaching, and then still running and managing the sales team. And he was still selling real estate and like working 60 to 70-hour weeks, both of us just like go, 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 go. When it came to 2020, it was like, you know what? I think that this year our focus is us and our relationship and the amount of connection that we have, the amount of time that we have, and nobody else is getting invited. Like, because we're never alone. We're always with people in some way, shape, or form. And so, 2020 was a great year to do that. And we bought a motor coach and hit the road for 2 months around the US, just us. And it was one of the most magical things that we could have done, but it put us wildly. I mean, who leaves that has a real estate sales business and just, goes away for 2 months? Nobody, right? But, from the road, those 2 months, 27 million in volume happened. So I say that to say this, when you're thinking about 2026 and setting your goals and making plans, is that pick one area, my experience, pick one area that you're going to be crazy focused in, that you're going to be so diligent in that everything else will rotate around that. And maybe it's business for you and maybe it's not. Maybe there's another area of your life. Maybe it's your physical health, right? Maybe there is it's time for a radical different relationship there. and everything else goes around that. In years where physical health, 2017, physical health was what was on the docket for us. And we worked with a functional medicine doctor and we did stuff that you guys, nobody on this call would do because it was too restrictive. But we did it and we executed, and like our physical health was the best it had ever been. And then business went to another level because we were feeling better. We had more energy. It impacted everything about how we stepped into life and business because our focus was so much on our physical health that year. So pick one area is my invitation to you, and then go all in on what area that's going to be. And oh, by the way, if it's one that you don't normally pick, maybe you pick that one. In my experience, there's ones that we always pick because they're the ones that we want to be moving forward. For me, that's business. I love doing the business goals. It's like, okay, because I know the business goals means I'm growing people. And when people are growing and their business is growing, my business is growing. And so I'm always energized to pick the business goals, and I want that to be my focus. Has that always served at a high level? No, not so much. Not when the physical health's in the tank. Right. And so if there's an area that you're drawn to, and usually there is for people, the one that you're naturally drawn to because you like to create in that area and you always set goals in that area, maybe you pick one that's not one that you're drawn to, but that you know that if you did focus on that for 2026, that it would radically impact everything else. Maybe it's the relationship side. Maybe there's stuff that you have that's not resolved, things that you don't talk about, things that you've been stuffing, things that you haven't let go of with yourself or other people. And maybe you decide, like, I had some of that to do in the last 2 years, right? Because it was holding me back. So I decided that I was going to take a deep dive in those areas where I had areas to do that so that I could free myself and free that energy to be able to have more energy myself, to create, to be in better relationship, to have bigger things happen and happen at a faster level because I was more personally aligned, right? The relationship that we have with ourselves impacts the relationship that we have with other people. So whatever that is for you, again, we're back to you defining what success looks like for you. Now, I know this is a real estate call and everybody on here is realtors. And so I want to go back to that fact. So let's talk, brass tacks about that. And
Casey, can I just ask a quick question before you jump?
yeah,
Back to the square and the uneven wheels. Um, do you recommend that people take a look at where they kind of rated themselves the lowest, or it doesn't matter?
um, I would say if there's an area that you rated yourself the lowest, right? Like let's say my lowest side is on the contribution side of things. And if I'm contributing time or money or resources, and that's the area that I give back. Um, if that's low for me right now, and there's important things for me to get done, like on the business side and on the physical health side, I'm not going to focus on the contribution side if there's something much more imperative that I need to move the needle on, just because it's low. I'm going to give it, some awareness and attention, but I'm not going to pick it as the thing because it's not going to give me the highest return in all areas. So for me, I like to pick one that's going to give me the highest return. And generally, in my experience, it's the physical side or the relational, emotional side because those impact the business side at such a high level. I mean, we're in a relationship business. Business moves at the speed of trust. For those of you that haven't heard the analogy or the definition of net worth, so I want you to write this down. This is Dr. John DeMartini. I love his stuff. So his definition of net worth is this. It's self-worth. So the extent that I value myself, and this could be, oh, I'll do it for 1%. So self-worth, the extent that I value myself, plus other worth, meaning the extent that I value other people, will be my net worth, where those two things intersect. So let me tell you, like, just to define a little bit more about what that means. If my self-worth is high, meaning I am contributing at a high level, I have value that I give, and I am willing to honor that value and continue to take that to the next level. And my self-worth is high, but my other worth is higher. I'm going to charge you 1% because you're more important than me. Yes, I'll do that deal for 1%, right? Rick and I run this conversation. One of the goals that he set when he went through a program called Pace Setter Leadership Dynamics was he wanted to do a 1 hour speaking engagement and get paid $10,000 to do it. And yet when he'd get hired out for the day, it'd normally be for like 5 grand and people pay to fly him in and, whatever. And then when the market changed, sometimes he would do it for less, but his goal was always the 10 grand, but he wasn't talking about that. In that instance, his other worth, like I want to help people, I want to serve people, was greater than his self-worth. So that impacted the net worth, the dollars in the bank, right? And then when we came back to the conversation, and I love using Rick as an example because he's not here to defend himself. It's kind of fun now because he has nothing to say about it. But this is a true story because I have it on his like goal sheet. And I'm like, you stopped saying that your goal was to be paid $10,000 for a keynote. Like you stopped telling people that. So when people call to hire you, they hire you for the same old thing they always hired you for, which is what you take. And it's like, that's like so undervaluing, what you have to bring. Like this is me always like, know your value, right? And so then he's like, you're right. And so he put it out there and like within a week, this is in 2021, 2020, no, it was 2022. Brent Gove had him up to Sacramento and he did a 1 hour keynote and Brent gave him a check for 10 grand. He's like, I didn't know that was your goal. Yeah, I'll pay you 10 grand to come do a keynote all day long. Are you kidding me? Rick G off for an hour, right? Done. So in that instance, self-worth, like I recognize the value that I have and I'm willing to ask for it. Plus other worth, I have something valuable to contribute that's going to help and make a difference with people, impacts net worth, right? From a business perspective, from a dollars and cents. So going back to this, how we are inside, our outer world is always going to be a reflection of what our inner world dictates. And so when you're looking at those areas, and I love that you asked that question, Eva, because this was my very long-winded answer to that question, is when you're looking at those areas, what are the areas that are the most important areas for you to move the needle in, not necessarily the lowest with the biggest opportunity to give attention to, right? But if there's a crisis one, like your health is a -5, and you don't address that, all the other areas are going to be wiped out. I would definitely say focus on your health, right? Any questions about that? Or comments?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I really liked your comment about managing yourself from the inside out. That like really helps me understand like the power from within to be the creator of your life and the direction you want it to go. So just a aha for me from that.
I love that. Thanks for sharing. Patty, I saw you come off mute.
Yes, because I am a personal fitness trainer, mainly. I've always come from the physical, and I also do music too. But there was this one event that I did musically, and the gentleman, the keynote speaker there, the first thing out of his mouth was, "Your health is your wealth," and that stuck with me. And he followed it up with, "Because if you have your health, nothing can stop you. There's nothing you can't do." And he was, like you, he's like, set these goals and go. You're healthy, go for it. So it resonated with me because when you were talking about setting, where are you strongest on my square, I'm like, oh my God, my physical is like, heck yeah. So I always set my physical goals are, I'll go. I'll do the rope, I'll do a half marathon. But I also keep in mind that my health is my wealth and there's really nothing stopping me. So thank you for the inspiration because I do have a low number here. I'm like, dang it. So I am going to, and I'll just tell you, it's the mental wealth side where I was lowest. I'm like, ugh. I didn't know it was going to be a car.
Well, here's the coolest thing is that skill sets are transferable, right?
Okay.
So when you look at the health side of your life and like what a strong muscle that you've developed a
Yeah.
skill set around discipline, around
Yeah.
commitment, around prioritization, around managing your schedule. You've developed that muscle in all those areas. And so now it's just taking those skills and those muscles that you developed in those areas and going, okay, how am I going to apply them on in this aspect now, right? So you're not starting from scratch because they will roll over into other areas. A lot of times it's just even having the awareness about it to go, oh yeah, I'm not really starting from scratch because look at how great I'm doing over here. And now how do I
Right.
and apply it over here?
Thank you. Yeah. This has been amazing. I'm just like so excited. It's just great.
Thank
Love
you.
it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. So here's the next thing I want to talk about as it relates to goals. I know we're talking about a lot of concepts, ideas versus numbers. So if you've read the book 10x is easier than 2x, how many of you have read that book? So for those of you that haven't read that book, get that book. Here's what happens with most people in goal setting around any kind of goal setting business or life. You'll take an inventory of what you did in 2025 and go, oh my gosh, okay, how do I double that in 2026? And if you already feel like you're at maximum capacity and you have a doubling conversation in any area of your life that you're going to set a goal around, you immediately are going to be de-energized, resistant, depleted, check out, and not do the stuff. If it means it's going to take double the amount of capacity and you already feel like you're at max capacity. So the reason why that book is so important, it's going to help shift your mind to 10x is easier than 2x because I have to become a different version of me to create a 10x result versus a 2x result. A 2x result doesn't require you being a different version of you. And so that book I think is brilliant. I mean, it's one of the most impactful books I think you could read, particularly if you want to move the needle and make a big jump in any one area, is to look at that because what we tend to do as people is go, okay, well, I did 10 transactions this year. I'd like to do 15 next year, or I want to double it and do 20 next year. And then if I know my numbers, which is how many conversations lead to how many appointments, of those appointments, how many of those appointments lead to contract, either listing or buyer contract. Of those, how many actually get into escrow? Okay, great. Of those, how many actually close? Okay, great. Of those, what's the average volume on the buy side and on the seller side? And what's the average commission on those? Okay, great. Now we have a business plan that's going to tell us the numbers. But so often, if we are tempted to set or create goals based on what we feel is realistic on anything that we've done before now. So if I've never sold 20 homes and all I've sold is 10, I might be like, well, 20, yeah, my goal is 20. But what if it was 50? That's going to require an entirely different you that shows up to do 50 than it does to go from 10 to 20, because 10 to 20 is not going to require you to show up in a much different way. You're going to have to maybe do some stuff better and maybe do more of it than you're doing right now, but it's not going to be life changing. Shay Spitz, who I interviewed on Friday, she said, yeah, I could have done another 30. She's at 80 plus transactions. She's like, yeah, I could have done another 30 this year easily. I'm kind of like not doing a lot in December. And she's like, but do I want to do another 30? No. You know, her 82, what was going to end up 84 was enough for her, right? So again, coming back to this point, I want to like bring it full circle and then I see, man, that hour went by really fast. My alter ego name could be One Talks a Lot and time goes by really fast. Anyway, so to go back to where we started, check in on what your definition of success is. And do you have a definition of success that sets you up to win? That every day you can look and find areas that you're winning or that you are winning so that you see yourself as becoming more and more and more successful every day. It is really important to take this inventory. If you do it in the context of Gap and Gain that's another book by Benjamin Hardy, not looking at how far you have to go, but looking at how far you've come. That's going to be every day looking at the wins and how far you've come relative to where you've started on that journey. Really important to be able to do that. So check in on what your definition of success is and make sure that it's setting you up to win, not to sabotage yourself. Number 2, we all took inventory on the 4 main areas of life: mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, on that side of the box. Don't let that exercise and what your point A is on inventory be thrown out the window. Have it mean something to you, right? We've now got a visual image of that car going down the highway of life, representative of what it is energetically to get up and live in your world as a human, personally and professionally, based on where your inventory is. And so now that we know where that inventory is, okay, great. How do we take the highest level of intentionality moving into 2026 and go, if I'm going to pick one area that's going to be one area of focus, knowing that success is transferable, where I succeed at a really high level in one area is going to spill over into the others as long as I have some awareness around it and some intention around it. What's going to be that one area of focus for you that's going to give you the highest return, and go with that. And then lastly, in this conversation, which we didn't talk about, would be this one thing is that what if, and in 2020, when the world was on pause, Matthew Ferry, I was coaching with him personally in a mastermind. And he said, what if the purpose of life is to have experiences? And they had done muscle testing on thousands of people of what tested strong and what tested weak. And, the purpose of life is, and they finished the sentence by so many different definitions. The purpose of life for people that were really religious was to honor God. The purpose of life for people that were really family oriented was to have a strong family. The purpose of life for people that were, really about living the best quality of life was to have the highest level of health. The purpose of life is to make a difference, to make an impact. The only thing that muscle tested strong across the board on everyone was the purpose of life is to have experiences. So now when you look at your goals through that context, and I'm not saying that is the purpose of life, I'm just saying, what if the purpose of life is to have experiences? How are the goals that you're going to set for yourself in 2026 going to create experiences where you've got a life that you're energized to live? And that hit the different measures of what it looks like to be successful for you. And I realized I didn't leave a whole lot of time for questions at the end, but the plane has landed. I will pass it back to Colby and Eva. Thank you so much for having me, Colby and Eva and Dylan.
Thank you so much, Casey. We really appreciate it. Do you want
Yeah. I mean, I think the plane landed in a great way that to walk away from this with the purpose of life, thinking of it being, having more experiences, you get to kind of play with that in your life and have a little fun with the goals that you're setting. It's not to say that every single day is going to feel playful. There's hard things that we need to work towards that take a lot of discipline. But I think we can find fun in the discipline. So really appreciate your time, Casey. Thank you for being here. If anyone has any questions, wants to learn more about, Casey hosts calls, if you want to plug into those, Casey's a coach. So just let us know if you want to connect more. We do have 2 events that I want to put on 3 events actually that I want to put on your radar. I'm going to drop the information right now into the chat, but our last EMC Monday Mastermind of the year is on Monday, December 22nd. Like I said, we're going to be bringing on a top agent from Orange County. He's going to talk to you about why he thinks you should hire a salaried production partner.
That's Colton, right?
Yes,
Colton Whitney.
to grow your business, grow your team, etc. And then Casey actually is going to be speaking at a 2026 vision update. This is on Friday, January 2nd. So have fun on New Year's, have fun over the holidays. And then if you can jump onto this, it's going to be really awesome. Our founder, some of the best leaders at our company are just going to be talking about the market and what the vision is moving forward with Casey as a part of that. So please just drop your email in this form. We'll make sure you get an invite. And then we will all be attending. Casey, are you speaking in Cabo?
I am at the women's event. They invited me to be the keynote there. So yeah, I'll be on that first day, end of the first day.
We'll all be attending the Cabo Mastermind March 3rd to the 8th. It's an amazing event. The women's breakout is new and it's going to be really, really awesome. So if you're interested in attending that or getting more information, definitely fill out this form here. Annalisa, you have a quick question?
Oh, yeah, I was just wondering if you could say the name of the books again and the authors, please, that you mentioned during the class.
Yep, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey.
Stephen Covey.
And then Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
Gotcha.
And then anything Benjamin Hardy. 10x is easier than 2x. Willpower doesn't work. Gap and Gain.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah. And just so you know, guys, we do keep a running tab of books that are recommended by our speakers. So if you're ever looking for a library full of great stuff, it is on our webpage.
Thanks, guys. Thank you so much for being here. We hope you have an amazing December and end to the year and start to January. Definitely plug into these upcoming things to keep, connected with us and keep moving and holding yourself accountable to everything to come. So thanks again, Casey. You're awesome.
Thank you.
We really appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks for
you.
creating a great space and bringing amazing speakers. I know you guys do this regularly and it's incredible. So thanks for the opportunity to
Yeah,
be here.
it's been
Thank
awesome.
you.
Thank you,
Bye.
Thank
everyone.
you,
And your
guys.
sister, Casey.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Are you bringing her to Cabo?
So she jumped off. You missed her.